Hey Homeworthy fans, New York City interior designer Garrow Kedigian here. We're back in Paris checking in on things on my apartment, which is in progress of construction. I'm so excited to share with you all that's going on here today. Now, you know construction actually takes a lot of time. Everyone in New York keeps asking me, when will your apartment be ready? Well, there's nobody more anxious to see this apartment done than myself, trust me. But before you actually get there, there's a lot of work to do behind the scenes. You know, in an apartment like this, it's really critical to get the infrastructure right, the wiring, the plumbing, all those things. Today, we're gonna meet with the contractor and we're gonna make some decisions on some moldings and some fun stuff. I can't wait to share it all with you. Let's get started. I'm Garrow Kedigian, a New Yorker turned Francophile, so in love with the city of love that I just decided to purchase a pied-à-terre in the heart of Paris. Welcome to Chateau Garrow. It's located in an old building and the apartment hasn't been touched since the 1970s. It's a complete gem, but it needs some major TLC. So the kitchen, out of all the rooms in this apartment, was actually the scariest space of all. I've invited Homeworthy to join me as I renovate it from top to bottom over the next few months. It won't be easy, but I'm determined to make her absolutely fabulous again. Hopefully, the board is going to approve it. We'll see. I hope you can come along for an inside look into this exciting journey.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
You guys remember Edouard, my fabulous contractor, where we're here on site and we're working on a bunch of things. So I love that he's so organized. So, you know, in design, it's critical to have a contractor that really gets it. And this guy gets it, let me tell you. He really loves getting into all the moldings, all the colors. He did all these paint samples for me, which is great. And so today he set up everything on a table, which I'm going to take you through and show you all our selections. Everyone that knows my work knows that I'm an architect and I love my moldings. I love architecture. I'm more of a traditional architect. Alors moi, j'aime beaucoup les grandes moulures comme ça. So one of the great things about having a huge ceiling height in an apartment like this is that you can actually overscale your moldings. And so these are actually some of the great plasterwork moldings that we're selecting for the various rooms in the apartment. It's very exciting. But first, we're actually going to talk a little bit about the doorway openings, les moulures.
Yeah.
Oui?
Yeah, this one.
Right. So this is actually a Belection molding that we're going to use to frame the doorway openings throughout the apartment. I actually, this is the best part of actually being able to work with a contractor that does everything custom. So they're actually going to cut the molding to a little bit less of a severe profile because I felt like the shadow lines are a little bit heavy. But what I love in French architecture is they always have these plinths at the bottoms of their casing moldings. So in this instance, we're going to end up cutting this plinth off to match and be in alignment with the casing molding, right? So I love to actually detail my window openings almost like doorway openings. In this apartment, especially where the windows go almost to the floor, I'm going to case the molding and have the molding go right to the floor. That way, it'll look like all of these doorways and all of the windows match each other throughout the apartment. It's a great detail. So the reason why I selected this molding is actually it is a Belection molding, and it's actually in the spirit of the molding that was here originally. If you look at the profile of this molding, it actually has that Belection OG. So I picked a molding that's a little bit larger because the ceilings are so tall in this apartment that I feel like the architecture could really be beefed up. And I wanted to have something that was a little bit stronger, but I also wanted to be sympathetic to what was here originally. This is actually a molding that was replaced, so it's not original to the building, it was not original to the apartment, so I don't feel bad about replacing it and putting something in that would have been closer to what was here originally. So in this detail here, where the two windows in the living room meet, we're talking about how the casing molding is actually going to be shared. So the way that we're going to do it here is we're going to share the back band molding, which actually works perfectly because there's nothing worse in interior design than having a sliver of paint between two elements in architecture. If there's a small sliver of paint of wall color, I find that to be, it almost looks like a mistake. Whereas this way, we're going to actually bridge the gap between the two windows and make the window feel like it's one entire composition. It's going to be fabulous. So recently I was actually at the Design Miami show that happened at the Karl Lagerfeld mansion, and I saw these wonderful overdoor panels that they had done here. This is actually like an entablature molding. It's beautifully done. The challenge for me was that the doorways are really tall in this apartment, but I also have a lot of wall space above the doors, and I wanted the doors to be as tall as possible. So when I saw this detail, I was really inspired to do these overdoor panels. And look at the amazing job that the woodworker has done in recreating this detail. It's absolutely amazing.
Et peut-être qu'on pourrait avoir un fond en bois aussi, parce que j'ai l'impression qu'il y a comme une épaisseur de bois à l'intérieur.
Oui, exactement. Ça peut être plus...
Un petit peu moins profond.
Exact. Oui.
Ce serait plus joli, non?
Qu'est-ce que je pense, oui? Ouais. Oui, je pense que oui. Ouais.
Peut-être ici.
C'est magnifique, c'est très
Ça va être
beau.
super, hein?
Oui, super. Mais je vais réduire ça un peu.
Ok, on peut peut-être
et puis
dessiner.
faire ça plus haut que possible.
Ouais.
Et on peut choisir. Ça peut être quelque chose de très simple. So I love the detail, it's fabulous. And I'm asking him to actually include a little panel molding that will go in the upper panel above the door instead of it being just square. I think it will be a nice detail. And yeah, on va faire un peu plus comme ça. Oui, we'll build it forward so that the depth. No.
Ah.
Comme ça.
Avec
parfait.
un fond?
Oui, exact. Comme
ouais.
ça.
Ok,
oui.
Perfect.
C'est bon?
Ouais,
I think that works beautifully. I'm going to recalibrate the cap on the entablature to be a little bit shorter. It's looking a little top heavy. So I'm going to reduce that flat section, maybe reduce it in half. En moitié, peut-être.
D'accord. Ou on laisse un petit peu plus? Bon, la moitié.
La moitié, c'est bon. So look at this magnificent sample that he's made for me. So I'm trying to match the original doors that were here. These are the two original doors in the entrance foyer. And look at this amazing sample that he has made for me. It is almost exactly the same detail. It's really beautiful. I think it matches beautifully. And we're going to use this for all the other doors that we're creating going into the other rooms. C'est magnifique. So essentially, we're going to try and match the doors that are here. These are actually enormous doors. The doorways going into the library and into the dining room are actually going to be narrower. So now we're trying to discuss the proportions and getting the doors just perfect so that they'll be simpatico to the original doors as well as fit and be proportionate to the new openings that are not as big. One of the most important things in any construction and renovation is having a good electrical plan. So I'm lucky because this is my own apartment, but when I'm working with clients, it's a little bit tricky. I know exactly what I want out of my electrical work. And Edouard and I have been working together on developing this plan électrique. C'est très détaillé, no? Lots of details.
C'est très important pour bien faire les travaux.
And actually, I find the electrical work here to be actually quite charming. Believe it or not, they have the most beautiful little toggle switches. I'm going to show you now what we selected for my light switches. But the most important thing is that we're working through today to place all of where my outlets are going to go. And also, when I come into a room, I always love to have a switched outlet. So when I come into the room itself, I can turn the light switch on and all the lamps in the room go on. That's actually a really great part of doing a renovation, is that you can actually include things like that in your work. Take a look at this beauty. This is fantastic. So I wish they had these switches in the US. These are beautiful. I mean, they do have them, but they are very expensive. These are standard issue here, believe it or not. These lovely little toggle switches. They're just so lovely. And look how small the back plates are. They're just made for designers. So we decided that I'm going to use this brushed brass back plate, and these little toggle switches are actually going to be in black. It's going to be great. Oui, c'est bon?
Yes.
Avec le brosset.
Avec des vis.
Oui.
Ce sera plus solide
Oui.
Sur cette plaque.
Ouais.
Des vis dorées.
Recommandez d'utiliser les vis, oui.
Oui, c'est mieux, c'est plus solide.
Parfait.
En fait, ici, c'est aimanté.
Ouais.
With magnet.
Oh, yeah. Oh, so he's explaining to me that this one is actually magnetically installed the back plate onto the switch, and then this one is actually installed with screws, which is actually more traditional. And I'm a huge traditionalist, so we're going to go with the one with the screws. And these are the outlets. Look how cute these are. Aren't these adorable? I think they're just very stylish in a way. They're beautiful. And the way that they do outlets here, that they're actually single outlets. So whenever you need to have two outlets, you have to put them side by side. So in New York, normally we place the outlets in the baseboard molding, which is actually an unusual detail for them here. So I'm actually making them do something a little bit unusual. I'm trying to place my outlet in the baseboard molding. So here is the detail that we're proposing. This is the baseboard cap that's going to go on top. Here's the actual main flat portion of the baseboard, and our outlet will be centered right there, which is perfect.
Yeah.
Et ça va être avec les moulures pour les portières, c'est parfait. So it'll die right up against the moldings of the doorways and the windows. It's perfect.
This will be more big.
Oui.
And maybe like that.
Yeah.
No,
I think it's going to be too much.
No?
I think that's
It's
too much,
just
yeah.
9,
Mais si on va faire au milieu, on peut faire jusque là,
au centre.
au centre, exact. So we're talking about the plinth block, which is actually a great detail. It's a very nice architectural detail that terminates the casing molding that frames a doorway or a casing molding. They have them all in every doorway here in France. We rarely see them in the US, but I love the detail. And we're talking about making the plinth block the height of the half of the flat of the baseboard, which will then align with the center line of the outlet. It's all these little details that make the difference in construction. Believe it or not, a visual pleasing detail such as a center line aligning with something is very subtle, but in the end, it will make a big difference. Do you guys remember those fabulous pilasters that I bought in the Paris flea markets? Well, this is the fun part of design. I'm here in the dining room of my apartment, and they're bringing the actual components and pieces of the pilasters, and we're putting together a pilaster. Alors, est-ce qu'on peut mettre une pièce ici? So if you remember, my ceiling heights are like 1 million feet tall in here. So even though these pilasters are enormous, I have to build these plinths under which these pilasters will sit.
Ici.
Ouais,
Ouais, c'est ça. Ça va être très joli.
Wow, yeah. Incroyable, no? Voila, here we are in the dining room. So now they're laying out the pilaster, including the capitals, which they had forgotten to measure for when they did the first mock-up sample. This is why it's important to actually make visits to your job site to make sure that they have all the components together. So now they're modifying the base of the pilasters, and they're going to put up the mock-up for us to see, which I can't wait. This is the pièce de résistance for this apartment, that's for sure. Alors, on a modifié la plinth ici, oui. Do you guys remember this little sketch that I did a few weeks back for my library? Well, I have a little surprise to show you. Come on through. So, as the guys are working on the pilasters in the dining room, I want to take you through to the library and show you the pièce de résistance. Look at this. Fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. If you remember, we found these pair of columns in the Paris flea market, and I designed these columns to go in the opening between the library and the bedroom hallway. Well, here they are. They framed them in for me, and I think they look absolutely spectacular. So, there's a little bit more work to be done here, but how fabulous are these Corinthian columns? We're going to have a casing molding, framing, opening. And also, when you look through this opening, we're going to have the doors going into the primary bedroom, which are going to be centered on this opening. I just actually had a 5-hour board meeting to review my plans. Oh, tragique. It was really, really hard. And I really had to fight the battle to get the approval because this is actually called a mur porteur, which means it's a supporting wall. Thankfully, I hired the right engineer and he did the right plans and he showed that the structure actually in the building will be ameliorated, which actually will be better once we put the steel in. It's going to be a little bit strengthened in the end. So everyone was happy, especially me. We got the approval to do our opening. If you guys remember, the fireplace mantle in the library was actually a bit of a conundrum for me. There was an original wooden fireplace mantle here, and it wasn't so nice looking. So I actually went out searching for a new fireplace mantle, and I found one that actually was period to this building, and it actually matches in style and design to the fireplace that is existing in the living room. There's a beautiful white marble fireplace mantle in the living room, and this is actually the style, exact style. And I found this for the library. However, we have a little bit of operation work to do here. N'est-ce pas? On doit faire un peu de coupage ici.
Oui, même tout casser, ce sera mieux,
boy.
je pense.
Tout cassé, oh boy. That's not good. When your contractor says tout cassé, it means he's going to rip everything out. Oops. Well, anyway, I know that in design it is important to actually get your details right. So we knew from the beginning that because the fireplace has a hearth avec les briques sur le sol,
oui.
on va
enlever ça pour faire un sol au même niveau avec le parquet.
I want to have the floor of the library to be flush with the hearth of the mantle, so that actually required us to remove the bricks that were here anyway. So when he puts the bricks back, he's going to modify the size of the aperture to fit this fabulous antique fireplace mantle, which I also found in the Paris flea market. Isn't it gorgeous? J'aime beaucoup ce.
C'est magnifique.
Oui, c'est magnifique.
Ça va aller très bien avec.
Avec les couleurs, regardez ça, c'est magnifique. So one of my greatest design inspirations was Henri Samuel. Henri Samuel was actually a French designer who had some beautiful interiors. And one of his rooms was one of the inspirations for this library. I'm going to pull up the picture. So here you go, Henri Samuel's, this was his living room. It was very much a very, very famous room. And this is the room that actually inspired me. C'était mon inspiration pour cette chambre-là, pour les couleurs.
Pour la couleur, ouais.
Et moi, j'étais très heureux de voir. I was so happy to find a marble that actually has a little bit of that burgundy red color that goes through it. It's amazing.
Après, il nous faut à peu près 15,
Oui.
14,
Yeah.
allez, 20.
Yeah.
20, ça serait dommage de voir cette brique
Oui.
ici.
Non, je pense que je vais avoir... si on refait tout ça, on peut faire le brique juste de là et puis sur un angle.
D'accord.
Vous savez?
On commence ici.
On commence ici et faire un angle comme ça.
On peut réutiliser ces briques pour la construction.
Oui, exactement.
Voilà.
Exactement. So I'm thinking of reusing the bricks that are here because these are beautiful old antique bricks. So when they take this apart, they're not going to demolish and throw it away. They're going to actually reuse the bricks to make a new firebox that actually follows the line of the new fireplace mantle leg. It's going to be perfect, actually.
Yes.
Ça va être parfait, je pense. Oui, oui, oui.
On va casser soigneusement.
Oui.
Après, peut-être qu'on peut mettre aussi des briques à l'intérieur
Oui.
et avoir une pierre noire, c'est ça?
Oui,
que vous
pierre
vouliez?
noire, exactement. Belgique, le nom à New York, c'est Petit Négri.
Ah oui, je vois.
Très, très beau. So we're going to do a hearth on the floor that's going to be solid black. And then the surround is going to actually be modified to come right to the leg of the mantle. So it's going to be perfect. And that is a wow. People, that is a wow. Look at that. Amazing. This pilaster really, really does the trick. I love its relationship to the moldings that are in the living room, in the room next door. The room next door has these very elaborate, crown moldings, and I felt like this room actually lacked the details. So I was so thrilled to find these pilasters in the Paris flea market. I bought 9 of them, and they're really going to embellish this dining room. Just one up already makes such a huge difference. It's amazing. C'est magnifique. Merci bien. Merci. Vraiment.
Avec les 8.
Qu'est-ce que tu penses, Valérie? Oui, c'est bon? C'est bon?
C'était joli.
Oui.
Oui, mais c'est vrai, hein.
Avec les 8 dans la pièce,
Ouais.
ça va être assez spectaculaire.
In France, they never actually admit to anything being good. They just say, pas mal. It's like, it's not bad. It's not bad. So you know when somebody says that it's good. Oui, c'est vrai.
Ouais, c'est vrai. Oui.
So we're putting
Ouais,
in
c'est ça.
some casing moldings to frame in these doorways. If you remember, we heightened these doorway openings. We're going to have a casing molding here, and we're going to have a casing molding on this side. And in between, I have this wall paneling, and I have these sconce lights. So, alors pour les appliques, on
les
devrait
appliques.
faire
Est-ce que
les mesures.
on vous aviez dit que peut-être la baguette commencerait à 14,
Oui,
mais...
oui.
et
Est-ce
donc
qu'on a
l'applique
le-
serait à 7. On a la baguette.
Oui, alors, he's going to get me the sample of the molding that we're decided to use here. So this is actually going to be a paneled wall, and I have these sconce lights that are going to flank the paneling. So I want to make sure that we place them quite precisely. Ça va être juste
14,
là.
c'est
Ouais.
là.
C'est 14.
Ouais, c'est ça, c'est
Ouais,
parfait.
14.
Voilà.
Oui, parfait. Et puis après ça, on a combien? 14?
14, on peut se mettre à 7.
Oui, exactement. C'est bon.
À 1m70.
Yeah. Oui. So 5'6" is the height of my sconce lights. I usually place them at 5'6".
Est-ce qu'on reste à 1m70 ou peut-être...
Oui, 1m70.
D'accord.
In French, it's 1 meter 70
Et
centimeters.
7. On l'a déjà tracé, elle est ici. Ça, c'est la lumière.
Oui, c'est bon. Oui, parce que ça va en haut.
Voilà.
Oui, c'est bon. C'est bon.
Oui,
Je pense
très
que c'est
chic.
bon. Et ça, c'est aussi très sympa avec,
Ouais.
tout ça, oui. Mais ça, c'est vraiment...
C'est magnifique.
Wow, vraiment, wow.
Ah, c'est dingue.
Yay, it's coming together. It's coming together.
For dinner.
Yes. You guys might remember at the beginning of our tours of the apartment that the kitchen was the scariest room in the house. Well, I'm happy to say that it's all been demolished and now we can see the space for what it is. Regarde le plafond, c'est magnifique. Magnifique, no? The ceiling was raised by 4.5 feet in here. They had dropped it to an 8-foot ceiling. Who would do that in a 13-foot ceiling space? Who knows? But the design for this space is very particular. The way the kitchen was previously, they had a glass block wall. It wasn't a great execution, but the concept was great. So the idea of letting the light come in through the wall where the bathroom window behind it is actually a huge, beautiful window that lets tons of light in was a great concept. So I designed this wall to be symmetrical and really put a large Palladian window in. But this is how, it's so important in design to study things on site because I actually drew this window on my elevation, on my CAD, and now I'm on site and I'm telling my contractor it's a little small. I actually think that the round could be bigger. Ça devrait être un peu plus grand, n'est-ce pas?
ouais.
Tu penses pas? Oui? Un peu plus grand.
6 cm de
Oui,
plus.
exact. So here's my elevation. That was the drawing that I had. And it's going to be quite dramatic. I want to have the kitchen cabinetry sort of cut on a curvature, coming up to the round window, which is going to be fantastic. But I do feel like this ceiling height is so immense that the round circle really needs to be just a touch bigger. Un peu plus?
Un peu
Non?
plus.
Penses-tu?
Oui. On va le faire tout à l'heure.
Oui, je pense que oui. Also, the wall of the kitchen was actually shifted over. If you remember, initially the wall of the kitchen lined up with where this corner is here. And this is actually where the bathroom was on the other side. And I didn't feel like the bathroom needed that space, and I felt like the kitchen really could benefit from it. So we reconfigured the space, we pushed the wall back, and this is really part of the reason why it's so important to make site visits during the construction process, because, you know, Edouard and I talked on the phone many times discussing exactly where this wall would go, but it was only until I arrived in Paris where we actually laid out exactly where the wall would go, n'est-ce pas? C'était exactement, précisément, on fait la belle position. Oui,
Ouais,
c'était
c'est
excellent.
parfait.
I think it's going to benefit the space immensely.
Et c'est parfait pour les meubles hauts,
Oui,
ce qu'ils font en général 38.
oui, oui, parfait.
Et on va
oui.
mettre un placo ici et on pourra aligner les meubles hauts.
Parfait.
Les-
So he's explaining that actually the jog in the wall won't even be perceived after we put the upper cabinets in, because the depth of the upper cabinet will swallow that corner up completely. It's actually really perfectly done here. I love it. Ça va être magnifique.
C'est bien ajusté. Ouais.
Oui, oui. So the center line of the kitchen is going to be this beautiful Palladian window, and I'm going to have the sink centered on that, and I think that that's just going to be the whole composition. Of course, I'm thinking of a fabulous, rich, delicious color coming up. Can't wait to show you. So here we are in the primary bathroom space, and as you can see, you know, the last time we were here, the ceilings had not been demolished yet. So the ceilings in this space were also dropped as they were in the kitchen. They were dropped to an 8-foot ceiling, and just lifting the ceilings made such an enormous difference in the volume of the space. So believe it or not, moving the wall 9 inches into the bathroom, making the kitchen larger, did not affect the space at all, because volumetrically we have all this ceiling height. It really is amazing. So in this corner we have the shower, la douche, ça va être là. And then I have my vanity cabinet is actually centered on this Palladian window. If you remember, this is actually the back side of the kitchen where we had that brilliant, beautiful oculus window that goes above the sink. Now, the beauty of this is that the ceilings are so tall that I'm able to place the window high enough that no one can actually see into the space. And you have the beautiful view of the window right through the space, which brings natural light into the kitchen, and nobody really knows that you're looking through the bathroom to see the window. It's perfect. I love it. C'est excellent. And then I will have the vanity that will be centered on this window, which is fabulous, and I have plenty of room here underneath the window for a mirror, which is going to be great. And then a beautiful linen closet in the corner. It's going to be great. The next time we do a walkthrough of this apartment, we're going to see a lot more demolition work of these openings. So a lot of these openings were needed a special approval by the building, and thankfully we've gotten the approval to make these doorways higher. And that's also going to make a huge difference. Yeah, ça va être plus grand.
Ça va être ici, ouais,
Oui, et
très
plus
grande
grand,
hauteur.
très grand hauteur. Ça va
Parfait.
être magnifique. Oui.
Magnifique, les grandes portes.
Can't
Partout.
wait to see that. That will be coming up on the next episode, j'espère. If you remember, in the primary bathroom space, it actually extended all the way back into that far corner. But this space was actually not well used. So I decided that I would reconfigure it a little bit. And on the other side of this wall, there was a powder room bathroom that was directly off of the entrance foyer. And instead of having it directly off of the entrance foyer, I decided to push it back into this space, which has really great benefits. One, I get a window in the powder room bathroom, which is lovely. So I already have a bathroom window, I don't need two. And the other is that I can actually gain a little closet area as a vestibule between the entrance foyer and the powder room bathroom. We'll go there right now and take a look at that in a minute. But this is where the wall is going to go, separating so the toilet will be in its own little niche, and then there's a wall, and then the bathroom toilet for the powder room is behind it. We'll go around there and take a peek at that now. When you come in from the entrance foyer and you look to the right, you see this magnificent curved window in the living room. This is what actually inspired me for the other end of the hallway. So when you first come in the front door and you look left, You currently see a fixed door, which this looked like it was a pair of doors and one door is fixed. Instead, what I'm going to do is I want to repeat the curvature of the living room bay window by creating a curvature here. One doorway is going to go into a little closet vestibule with the powder room beyond. And then on this side, we're going to have a little opening that goes to the service entrance door. So we come through here, and you can see a little bit of the line of the curvature of the wall here. I drew it on the floor here with Edouard earlier. And it's going to be the little opening here, and have a little closet vestibule. And so this is the back side of the primary bathroom where this window will bring natural light into this powder room space. It's going to be really lovely. I think it's going to be great. And I'm planning on using a glass frosted door for the powder room so that that will filter some light back into the entrance foyer and the vestibule area as well. Okay, so we're creating this wonderful little curved end to the entrance foyer, but because it's in a bearing wall, it's called a mur porteur, we have to create a little bit of a structure because we're going to put actually a steel beam in to carry the weight. And Edouard and I came up with the idea of putting two of the pilasters that we have from the dining room on the two ends where the curvature will begin and end. It's going to be really, really beautiful. I think it's going to be...
Like that.
Yeah, exactement. So you'll have
The same
pilaster
pilaster.
here, pilaster there, and then the curvature, and this is the same, le même que le...
Le même que dans la salle à manger.
Oui, so it also is a great architectural connection between the entrance foyer and the dining room, which is just adjacent, where they'll both have the same pilaster details. It's really, really it's a great way to pull things together when you repeat architectural elements from one space to the next. Well, it's never too early to start thinking about your paint colors. And those of you who know my work know that I'm obsessed with color. I'm really, really a colorist. I love my interiors to be full of color and to be layered with lots of color. So I've started by having the contractor prepare a series of samples. Now, color is actually very, very difficult. And you know, I get a question on Instagram every day about somebody asking me about a color of a room. And I always explain to them, you know, I would be doing you a disservice by telling you the actual color of this specific room, because it's always good to know what color you like, but you have to study your color in different shades and different tonalities in your space, because every space is completely different. The light that comes into your room is going to be different from the light that you've seen in a room on Instagram. So even though you know you like that color, I always recommend that you prepare several samples and look at all the different shades. So here we are in my living room. If you guys remember in an earlier episode, we had seen this fabulous door while we were walking on the streets of Paris. And the door actually inspired my room color for my living room. So this is going to be a fabulous turquoisey blue color. I do a lot of blues. I've never really done a turquoisey color. It has a little bit more of a green hint to it. It's going to be a little bit of a step outside my comfort zone. But what I have been doing is I've been coming here in the morning, I've been coming here at midday. I came actually the other day in the early evening because I really wanted to study and see how the color looked in the space at different times of the day. So it's very important, and it's never too early to start studying your colors. Even if you're well under construction and you still have a few weeks, months, probably a few months to go here until we get to painting, it's always really essential to start thinking about what your colors will be. So my generator is always to start with your main room, have a little bit of a color concept. We talked briefly about my library and how that was inspired by an Henri Samuel, his living room, which was a beautiful terracotta, rich red color. And I think that the colors will relate beautifully together, the turquoise in this room and then the red in the other room. I have had a little bit of a struggle with the color of the dining room. So dining room is the hinge pin to the space. It connects the living room to the library and also touches the entrance foyer. So that's a little bit of a work in progress. They've prepared a few samples for me, and I'm going to do a little bit more thinking about it. So during construction, I think it's absolutely critical to make site visits. I think we got a tremendous amount done today. We met with all the workmen, all the construction people. We saw a lot of things that have come to fruition, things that have been on my drawing board for many months. I'm able to see and envision and actually see them come to life. It's wonderful. I love making decisions. As for color, well, you're going to have to stay tuned for the next episode to see what colors I actually pick, because I'm not quite there yet. What do you think?
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.